Landorus count wasn't high enough to match up with that Mamoswine, and people were left feeling a little bit cheated that they bought it and didn't see the exact targets that they wanted. Outside of that, the stack attacker's back that we just saw in the losers rounds in Europe. This time it's paired with a different Rage Powder user in Amoonguss, and the same thing applies, right? If you can keep the stack attacker safe, it can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, Stack Attacker was definitely a standout for me in some of our sets that we saw just recently, and definitely going to be able to do some work in these next games as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into this match. One of these players is moving on to the global finals. One of them will get a second chance. Let's find out who that's going to be as we kick things off with game number 1 between Federico Turano and Luciano Begot. We have that Stack Attacker and that Amoonguss that you were mentioning before on Luciano's side of the field, and for Federico, already hitting the pedal to the metal there with that Glastrier and that Togekiss.
And that Glastrier really makes Luciano think, like, am I gonna Trick Room? Because I don't want to give this Glastrier the advantage in a potential Trick Room. But do I just leave the Togekiss alone? There's so many decisions that have to go on here. Of course, the Stack Attacker is going to be feeling very, very safe. It's sat next to a Rage Powder user and able to just kind of do what it wants for a turn or two. And that's really interesting to see if that one pans out and he decides, you know, oh, well, I'm just going to keep Stack Attacker safe, maybe set up a Trick Room and Dynamax. Certainly a lot of interactions for both these trainers to be thinking about.
Trick Room, maybe, definitely not going to happen maybe this time around. Luciano's definitely bringing Stack Attacker out of the mix here in favor of Incineroar, which will be able to get that Intimidate drop so crucially onto that Glastrier on Federico's side. And I really like that Amoonguss is also going to be going for a Protect here, just in case we do see a target onto that Amoonguss. But Follow Me coming out from Togekiss, so there's not going to be damage from that Togekiss as Icicle Crash goes right into that Amoonguss's Protect.
Very smart turn there by Luciano, decides that the board position wasn't quite what they wanted, and it's time to maneuver that, and also maneuver that very, very safely. I mean, the Follow Me there from Togekiss, completely useless in this turn, but showing that he's definitely worried about the Glastrier getting targeted there, and very kind of smart, considerate play around those turns. Looks like it could be a defensive turn from Federico in this one, though, as it's just going to be a Protect to avoid a potential Fake Out. Doesn't get the right Protect there, though.
No, and Amoonguss is going to go for Spore, but that's the right Protect for sure. So really nice Protect coming out from Federico, just to be able to block that Spore there. And as we noticed on Federico's team, there isn't really a good way to stop that Spore.
No,
no Tapu Fini.
The Tapu Fini's not there. There's not an easy electric terrain to set up either, which is another popular way around it. So certainly respect has to be put on this Amoonguss. You can't just leave it alone, and it causes so many problems and so many tough decision trees to go through where you're like, well, I could go after the Incineroar. The Incineroar's going to hit me really hard, and then there's kind of an arrow off to the side that says, but Amoonguss will put you to sleep and cause all kinds of problems. And you, as a player, have to be very well aware of that. It definitely makes these games a bit more of a mind game, a bit more of a kind of trying to bait your opponent into a move they might not want to make, and making reads rather than just following the flowchart.
Well, Togekiss is going to become the center of attention here as Incineroar goes for Parting Shot. So Luciano, again, posturing for position on the board, being able to drop the attack and special attack of that Togekiss. But Togekiss has been used in a much more supportive role this game, only having access to the damaging move Air Slash. But this is the perfect opportunity now for Luciano to bring in that Zapdos, which is absolutely going to be a really nice Pokemon to have on the field in front of this Glastrier. But, oh no! Togekiss is poisoned from that Sludge Bomb.
Yeah, the Zapdos is a really interesting addition here. Another flying-type Pokemon in the face of this Glastrier, which is probably feeling pretty good. That poison could be important if a Spore is ever going to try and head towards that Togekiss. Yes, it's obviously going to take a lot of damage every single turn, but it can't be Spored, so it can just force the Amoonguss to play a little bit differently with the Follow Me. I like the addition of Zapdos here. I think the Zapdos is able to deal with that Togekiss very comfortably, and then allow the Spore to not worry about the Follow Me. But getting that damage down on the same turn you bring in the Zapdos, I think is really heads-up play to think ahead, knowing how hard Togekiss can be to knock out. Really kind of smart decision-making there from, Luciano in this one.
Well, the other thing about that too is that seeing Federico go after the follow me so often, and then also seeing the held item on Togekiss being those safety goggles, that's a really great way to stop the Spore from coming through. So I can understand now why Federico really did have that Togekiss by this Glastrier's side. But Amoonguss going back into its Pokeball and Incineroar coming back out, getting yet another Intimidate drop onto Glastrier, and also crucially onto this Kartana.
Yeah, the Kartana doesn't appreciate that in the slightest, is really struggling to deal the damage after a single Intimidate, and it relies on that so heavily. It just has to be very conscious. It is going to take the Thunderbolt a lot better than the Togekiss would, and I think that's probably the more important part on this turn. So a really nice switch. We finally get to see something other than the lead from Federico, and you know, this game is very much an information gathering game. Game 1 is always very important for that, and it looks to me like you know, both trainers being very cautious on what they reveal. We could immediately get to a point where we've seen both sets of Pokemon, all 4, from both of these trainers, as it looks like Federico is hovering that Urshifu, but does decide that it's actually time for the Togekiss. So really smart play there, and Glastrier leaving the field. Doesn't want to get caught by either of the Pokemon on Luciano's side of the field.
Katana actually gets a chance to use Guillotine here? Wow,
Oh my-
30% accurate, and it hits Zapdos super hard.
That is ridiculous. We saw Federico try and hover it a couple times yesterday, and just landing that guillotine, an easy way to deal with the Zapdos, which could have caused so many problems. That turn really puts things in Federico's favor. I really like that turn, and that's such a brassy move to be able to sit there and say, you know what, I think that we're going to be able to get the knockout here. I don't have any other option that's going to be super effective, so why don't I just fish for the knockout? So brave, and so well rewarded for his work.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Oh, we were hoping to get a chance to see that yesterday. Guillotine just not usually a move that we get a chance to actually see for this Kartana, especially if Kartana is going to be holding something like an Assault Vest. Yeah, maybe you see a little bit of a different type of move coverage there, but Kartana able to land the Guillotine is so impactful, especially when Luciano's Zapdos was carrying something like Heat Wave. It's super effective against both Kartana and that Glastrier. So wow, what a great turn for Federico to be able to remove that Zapdos, remove that pressure, and really start to reposture for position here on the board.
Do we think that he's going to try and get another guillotine down? It's such a bold play, but it's just taking things off the field so easily. He hovered it a couple times yesterday, and he went for it once as well.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a horrible mind game if you're Luciano. You have to be so careful of it. Obviously, in this format, it's open team sheet too, so he knew it was there. But it's just such a, I don't want to say ridiculous, but bold play that gets paid off there as well. So really kind of big advantage carved out for him there.
Well, this was a great protect coming in from Luciano, being able to secure both of the moves coming in from Federico's side of the field. Incineroar gets that parting shot off into the Kartana, so it mitigates the Beast Boost that was activated from that Guillotine onto that Zapdos, and Amoonguss now coming back out.
It kind of resets Luciano right back to turn number 1 of the game and the leads. You know, the Amoonguss has got a little bit of health back as well, which is definitely helpful. But this Kartana, you know, must be feeling pretty good now about its chances. It's, you know, can't get caught by Sludge Bombs. The Amoonguss really can't do much against it, so it can spend a little bit of time trying to deal with this stack attacker, which doesn't want anything to do with the Kartana, it seems.
No, not when Kartana has access to Sacred Sword, that's for sure. But Incineroar now coming back out is going to drop the attack of this Kartana yet again, as Sacred Sword now finds its mark into the Incineroar. But look at that. Look at how little damage that does after all of those drops. And Yawn as well, finding its way into the Incineroar, and Sludge Bomb. Going into Togekiss is going to be able to pick up that knockout.
Yep, Togekiss finally taken out of play. I mean, the poison damage would have got there eventually, but, you know, getting it out of the field a little bit earlier, probably fine. That Yawn is going to be quite nice, I think, for Federico, forcing his opponent Luciano to switch around and definitely think a little bit more. And if you know those switches are coming, which when there's only 3 Pokemon, you know exactly what's coming in that slot, you can capitalize off that. Your choice right now is difficult if you're Luciano. Do you leave Incineroar in, let it go to sleep, or do you switch it out maybe for an Intimidate boost drop later? Which, I mean, look, the Kartana's down on -3 already on its attack, so it's really not going to be doing too much damage there. Looks like it, you know, there may be some switches. but, you know, and then show, okay, well, I'm going to make it real obvious that Stack Attacker's coming in here.
Yeah, I mean, in that scenario, do you go for some damage from Urshifu, or are you still worried about this Spore? I feel like you still have to be kind of worried about it because Luciano could take a huge advantage just from being able to put another Pokemon to sleep here, or even maybe get some more poison damage out from Sludge Bomb. But Urshifu going for the Detect really doesn't want to try to take any damage or any sort of Spore coming out from the Amoonguss, as Amoonguss actually goes for a Rage Powder here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a safe play, and I think the Flare Blitz is a very safe and good play here. It does a lot of damage to the Glastrier on the way in. It could have been worse if it was a Kartana, right? It would have been an easy knockout. But it did stay in. It is now asleep, and we're kind of back to that same position, right? Are we going to switch it out just so both your Pokemon are doing something, and that's going to be an obvious switch to Stack Attacker? Or are we just going to leave it in and hope it wakes up at some point? This Urshifu, certainly in an interesting position. Still full health. Of course, not too big a fan of the Amoonguss, which is going to lead the field. So Incineroar's stuck in there while asleep.
Yeah, Stack Attack coming back in now. Going to take that Icicle Crash for Amoonguss, but Surging Strikes happens first. Urshifu is going to be able to fire off into Incineroar, and Incineroar might be taking a nap here, but will be taking a longer nap in its Pokeball.
Yeah, not going to be able to do anything more, so it's down to the final two for Luciano, and that's definitely a tough kind of ask for these two. They were the lead, they weren't the perfect lead at that time, and yes, the Stack Attack is only taking a little bit from Icicle Crash. The recoil from the Life Orb actually bringing the Glastrier dangerously low, and that kind of spells out, I think, a little bit of an obvious end game here. When it comes down to what's going to be the focal point of Federico's team at the end of this game.
I feel like Federico can still go for another Icicle Crash and just try to knock out this Amoonguss here. And if it's enough damage, then should be able to get the knockout onto both these Pokemon. Federico is in a very nice position right now as Rage Powder comes through from Amoonguss, so whatever attacks are going to be coming through will be going to them, which means that Urshifu's close combat actually finding its mark into Amoonguss first could just be the difference maker between getting the knockout or not.
It's going to be close. We saw how much damage the Amoonguss was able to take earlier. Of course, 2 attacks going in this time. The close combat, a little bit annoying that it lowers the defense and gets there, but the combination of attacks does mean it's enough to knock out this Amoonguss. And this Stack Attacker standing alone against 3 Pokemon, actually, from Federico's side. Now 2. Of course, the Life Orb recoil coming through there, so it's a little bit closer than it was at the beginning of the turn, but Stack Attacker sets up Trick Room, really key there. That said, I mean, Stack Attacker's only spread move, which it could use to try and deal with both, is a Rock Slide, and a Rock Sliding Kartana is not really the way to go, particularly a Kartana that now doesn't have any of its Intimidate drops stuck on it after that nice switch out and reset.
Yeah, I love saving Kartana for an end game just because we really saw how powerful it could be for Federico, and this is a great time to also Dynamax this Pokemon and also give it that HP buff. So I think this is going to be a really good position for Federico for this endgame.
Yeah, the Kartana still able to Dynamax and put down huge pressure. Of course, Luciano hasn't even Dynamaxed in this game either. So Dynamax the option for the Stack Attacker. There's no other choice. That kind of, I think, seals the deal. You can't spread target with these max moves. That's one thing. They're always single target. So we're going to need, you're going to need at least 3 potential hits, potentially 1, maybe 2 on the Kartana, guaranteed 2 on that Urshifu because of Focus Sash, and it's, kind of the difficulty. Yes, that would be all of your Dynamax turns, but in that time you got 2 Pokemon that know fighting type moves that are just going to be able to start whittling you down, Trick Room or not.
Yeah, especially if you go for a Max Knuckle here, it's going to be able to increase the attack of the Urshifu as well. But Stack Attacker, because of the Trick Room, is able to go for that Max Steel Spike first, raising its defenses and really hoping it's going to be able to hang on through these super effective attacks.
Even if it hangs on, it's just not doing enough damage. It's not going to be there in Urshifu. Look at that. I mean, even on a Dynamax, that's a huge close combat, and Kartana is going to be able to follow it up with, of course, a really nice Max Knuckle here. Max Knuckle should be sealing up this game just to make sure, yep, it does exactly the requisite damage after getting rid, of course, of those very annoying drops from Intimidate and Parting Shots earlier on. So a really fantastic game. We got to see guillotine hit, which is something I don't think I've seen in a competitive game in maybe a good couple of years, and that's something that, you know, maybe you can't prep for that. You cannot prep.
Very end and preserving Max for it, I thought that was really smart.
They never let up at all, and that's the kind of momentum he's going to want to carry into game number 2, of course, for Federico. If he wins this one, he will be heading to the global finals in the winner's side of the bracket, and Luciano needs to fight back and find a win here to send us to a potential game 3 and try and keep this one going. So let's see what changes are made, if any, by these players as we look at game number 2. The leads come, and there's not a change there.
Not for that one, but, well, we're getting something a little bit different coming in from Federico. We were really hoping to see this Dragapult Colossal in action, and you could see right off the bat that Federico is going for a huge attack right here. Just not even going for the Dynamax, though. Trying to hit both Pokemon for super effective damage with that Heat Wave, but Luciano has some other plans, going to be able to Dynamax right away.
Yeah, he's got a Dynamax, I think, if he wants to withstand the potential onslaught from this Colossal and, of course, the Dragapult as well. Don't forget, I mean, this Dragapult's going to be putting damage down potentially kind of all over the place, and seeing what it can do after that. So a lot riding on this. Amungus's Rage Powder could be a complete kind of waste of time if it's not able to do what it wants. And Dragapult's Surf there, it's not much. It's a little extra damage on this Stack Attacker. A critical hit on Colossal, not what you wanted. But it won't matter if Colossal is just sweeping through the team and never gets hit. There's Steam Engine, there's Weakness Policy as well. It's all on you now, Colossal.
Yeah, this is another one of those moments where you preserve that Max to be able to hit both Pokemon for spread moves, and Amogus goes down. Stack Attacker gets burned.
You don't get the knockout on Stack Attacker there, but you do manage to kind of deal with a lot of the potential threat by burning it. That said, Colossal is only given a turn, and I'm kind of glad that you know, it didn't Dynamax there. That would have been a big old waste if that was the case. But this Stack Attacker is now burned. The Stack Attacker is probably going to struggle to deal damage throughout the rest of this game. And this Dragapult's going to be in a slightly odd position next to a Pokemon that it may not usually want to be partnered with, and go from there. So you know, we'll see exactly what the choice is. There's a couple of interesting and very offensive choices here from our pal Federico, and it's gonna be able to keep the pressure up really intense, I think, on Luciano. I don't think there's gonna be much letting up from these Pokemon, and I know it wasn't super effective, but Surf is still gonna hit hard here.
Yeah, Surf can hit hard, especially into Incineroar, but the other thing Dragapult can do is really set up screens against these physical attackers. So you can have Reflect or Light Screen here, and this is a great opposition or a position for Glastrier to really go for a Dynamax, because while Trick Room isn't set up, well, you still have access to lots and lots of damage.
Right, and that's it's going to be a really big deal if that's something he can kind of immediately keep going with. I mean, I spoke with Federico many moons ago now about how he likes to play the game, and dealing damage and being offensive was certainly one of those things that he was always a big fan of. And I think the Dynamax here on the Glastrier is certainly an indication that that's something he's okay doing. You know, he's not too worried about the Stack Attacker right now because of that burn, and this turn could really get quite nasty, I think. This Reflect is going to help out so much. Support Dragapult, such an interesting addition to the metagame that I think a lot of people hadn't thought about all that much. And it's going to keep things very safe for Federico here.
Yeah, Incineroar is going to go back into its Pokeball, and we will see the fourth and final Pokemon that Luciano has brought now that Amoonguss is out of the picture. And it's Zapdos! Zapdos now taking to the field. But is this going to be a problem? We are going to see Glastrier go for that Max Knuckle into the Zapdos. Doesn't do too much, but will be able to mitigate some of those attack drops from the Intimidate, as well as that Parting Shot coming out from Incineroar.
Yep, it helps out a little bit. I mean, it's something. And this Zapdos is still going to struggle against the Ice-type attacks, obviously. This Stack Attacker, taking its time there, making sure that it says, you know what, I don't want to get hit by an attack this turn, and the Max Guard not really of great value there, kind of wasting one of the Dynamax turns as well. So this Glastrier does get its attack back up a little bit, certainly trying to help out a little bit there, and that's still going to be a big issue to come back from. I know the Amoonguss wasn't the Dynamax Pokemon, but I think with it being one of the kind of key supporting members of this team, this Glastrier could cause so many problems while it's getting set up with a bunch of screens as well.
Look at that light screen being able to really preserve this Glastrier. And yes, while the weakness policy is going to be on the Colossal, so we've got Life Orb on Glastrier, that Life Orb is still doing a lot of damage, especially with that Max Knuckle boost mitigating some of those drops before. So Taka going down.
Yeah, that special defense boost as well. Really kind of a little bit over the top when you consider that there's already a light screen in play. Special attacks aren't going to be hurting in the slightest on either of these Pokemon, and talking about making up for those drops that came through from Parting Shots and Intimidates, there's Chilling Neigh making up the difference a little bit there. So, you know, these two Pokemon left for Luciano aren't really the most traditionally offensive here, and could be struggling a little bit to wear through these screens. I think this Dragapult's been so good. You know, turn 1 it helped get the Amoonguss knockout and good damage down on Stakataka, but you know, it's not needed after that for anything other than setting up screens, and two Pokemon that aren't the biggest damage output Pokemon, you know, no Brick Breaks or anything crazy to get through them. This could just be this pair just tearing through the rest of the game for Federico.
Yeah, you can see the Max Knuckle coming through here for both of, well, the Breaking Swipe first, and then the Max Knuckle going to be finding its mark onto the Incineroar, which I think is going to be really impactful just to be able to just, you know, try to hit both Pokemon really hard outside of Dynamax, but Heat Wave misses Glastrier. Flare Blitz comes through, but Reflect doing so much work here to keep this Glastrier safe.
Yep, the Glastrier is not getting, I mean, it's not getting hit by some of the attacks, and the ones it does hit kind of bounce right off the Max Knuckle, heading back towards that Incineroar, definitely making things a little bit harder. And this pairing, I mean, something I don't think many people had experimented with, really difficult here. To work through. This Dragapult has put in a shift in this game. There's no other way to describe just how much it's done for Federico in this game.
Yeah, screens are so important, and especially because Dragapult was able to get up Reflect and the light screen, you're protected on all fronts from Luciano's attacks. So now this is where we can see Federico try to seal up this game, trying to go for moves that have a little bit more of that accuracy, just in case you missed the Zapdos, but that's going to be the game, and Federico Turano moves on to our global final.